What's up, guys? This is Nick at Stridewise.com in Virginia. In a very special video, I am out here with Steve from Bedo's Leatherworks, who also has his own YouTube channel where he displays his absolutely fantastic, inestimable cobbling skills.
Thank you.
Steve is an absolute genius. He's an absolute genius in the world of shoes. Actually, to the immediate left of the camera, there's a whole trophy case full of trophies he's won at cobbling competitions. He absolutely knows everything there is to know about shoes. Unlike myself, I'm an enthusiast, and I love to be around actual experts to learn from them and soak up as much knowledge as I can.
He's a good expert. He's not bad.
But what I want to know, this is something I've always wanted to know as well, and people always ask me, how do you stop leather boots from creasing, or reduce the odds of them creasing as much as possible?
All leather shoes will crease. You can't stop it from creasing. If you wear it, it's going to crease. However, you can minimize that by, well, you can minimize that by using shoe trees, obviously.
So talk about our shoe trees, and not everyone knows about them.
What we would recommend is cedar shoe trees, right? Our feet perspire, it gets warm inside. So after you take them off, you insert the shoe trees in with the cedar smell. It'll absorb some of that moisture and it'll keep it fresh, and it'll keep the creases from happening right at the flex joint right there. Most of the time people will say, well, get rid of the creases for me when they bring in some repairs. We always tell them, we can minimize them, but however, when you wear it, it's going to come back. Leather has a memory where it doesn't matter how much you try to get rid of it, as soon as it starts flexing, it's going to come back. If you wear it and you do this all the time, you're going to minimize that. It's not going to be that much, but you're still going to have a little bit of creasing. Now, what I like to do, especially on like shell cordovan ones, right? We get some vintage shoes come in, 30, 40 years old, that the creases are there. It's almost impossible to make them look brand new again. What I do is I get a 50% rubbing alcohol, 50% water, mix them and spray them down, and just basically gently massage them the opposite way of the creases. The creases are horizontal, I'll come in vertical and just kind of massage them and basically bring them. Let's try it real quick. Now, some people don't like to do this, but you know what? To each his own. Everybody does it differently. This is how I do it. You choose however you want to do it. Yeah,
I hear people say that if you put water and alcohol, it'll suck the dye out of the leather. It'll dry the leather out.
No, not necessarily. This is not that potent of abrasion. It's going to affect the dye. Plus, it's diluted with water. It's not that harmful to the dyes. Nothing will happen to the dyes if you do it. So
50-50 water, alcohol. This is once there's already creases on this shoe.
This is exactly. Some of the older ones that come in, and we just kind of roll this right here, just kind of roll the rolls because they're not creases, So basically like that. And now, if you're really concerned about it drying on you, the leather drying on you, you can let them dry and then apply some moisturizer, conditioners to it. You really don't have to put too much on there. It's not going to affect it to a point where it's going to ruin the shoes. It's not it at all. We do it all the time and it works fairly well. Now you can see the difference now. I just spent a couple of seconds just rubbing on there. Now once it dries, it's not going to have a shiny texture like that again. Obviously, you're just going to have to apply some moisturizers to it and buff it real good, especially on some of the shell textures where you'll get that shine coming back real easily. And really, that's about it. On most of the leathers, I spray that, and I don't have an issue with the dye coming off or ruining the uppers. If you've got a suede pair, if you're concerned about it, you can spray the entire shoe where it dries evenly. It won't leave any watermark. That's one concern with suede, maybe, but I've never really had an issue with that. You can spray the whole thing if you want.
So, to prevent creasing from happening in the first place, the most important tip is to use shoe trees. And ideally cedar shoe trees. There are plastic and metal shoe trees out there, and that'll at least help it keep its shape to an extent. But the cedar is good at, it's more antimicrobial, and it's also going to suck up the moisture on the inside.
Exactly.
So it's going to do a better job at preventing creases. That's one way to avoid crease in the first place. The second is to, get the right size. The third would be to get shell cordovan, which creases way less than any other leather in the first place. The fourth would be to inspect the boots as well to ensure there's no loose grain or grain break and that kind of stuff as well, right? Because this is cordovan, right? So which not everyone is going to be getting because that's
you're not going to have any grains on there's no wrinkles on shell cordovan. They're called rolls basically. You're not going to have any wrinkles on it. But You know, we were discussing this earlier about the loose grain on some of the boots or some of the shoes. You're going to see the texture of the leather have a little bit more grainy than elsewhere on the shoe. That's very normal because when manufacturers are making shoes or boots, they're going to use almost every part of the leather. Towards the belly and the neck of the hide, where the hide is stretched, you're going to see more of those wrinkles there. And unfortunately, when the manufacturers make the shoes or boots, it's not so obvious, but when you start wearing it, it's going to start showing more. Then you're going to say, well, why does it look different? It's not that abnormal. You're going to have that in some areas. For example, if you look here, see how hairy that is?
Yeah.
Well, the fibers aren't as tight as, for example, right there, you know? They're going to vary different parts of the hide. They're going to vary differently, you see? See, this is towards the middle, towards the back, towards the butt area. The fibers are a lot tighter towards the belly and towards the neck area. So you'll have a lot more creases there. It's very normal, but manufacturers will use every part of the hide to make their products. And unfortunately, the consumer doesn't know the difference when they're buying it because it's not that noticeable when it's new.
But there's such a thing as clicking, right? Like, you know, people, the manufacturers, they have a good eye for this sort of stuff, and they'll try to ensure that they're using bits of the hide that's, like, for example, Chrome XL is an incredibly popular leather, but I found that, like, with Vibergs, which costs like a lot of money, they'll be so kind of ruthless with their leather selection that they'll choose hides that like won't crease. Like, all my Chrome XL boots have creased on the toe break, except for my Vibergs, you know? Like, that's not a coincidence, right? Like, they throw out a lot of leather. Like, they purposely ensure that...
Right, so that's
how you get the high price.
When before, you know, during the inspecting of the hide, obviously every inch of the hide is inspected. Some manufacturers will be more conscious of those areas not being used.
Yeah.
Most will. So if they're at a higher price, higher quality product, maybe they'll work around those wrinkles or little defects in the hide where it's going to be visible when it gets done.
All right, so avoiding the wrinkles, we've got get the right size, use cedar shoe trees, get cordovan if you're willing to spend a lot of money, get expensive boots in general because they're more likely to be more discerning with their leather selection, and that's pretty much the best we can do. And once the creases have already happened, it's possible to help remedy that by using a 50-50 water and alcohol spray, and then massage it against the direction of the wrinkles themselves. And are there any other ways to get rid of? Because I've heard of people like ironing their leather with an iron.
So some people do that, right? What they'll do is it's not really just putting the iron on the shoes. They'll wet the uppers. Again, you've got to wet the leather. They'll wrap it with a towel, maybe like a moist towel.
Yeah.
If they don't wet it, they'll put a moist towel, and they'll put heat on it. The heat's going to loosen the grains a little bit, kind of not shrink the leather, but it will if you put too much heat. You got to be really careful. You can't just turn the iron on and iron your shoes. It doesn't work that way. So maybe a little bit of heat, steam, will make the fibers a little tighter. It'll look like the wrinkles are going away. But again, if you're going to wear it, it's going to come back. It's not a permanent solution. You got to be careful with heat. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to do more damage than help. So if you want to practice, maybe practice on some thrifting shoes. You know, you go $5, $10, try it out before you do it on your $300-$400 boot. You know, you don't want to ruin it. That's not a good day.
So it sounds like it's the kind of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure type things. There's ways to stop it from happening, but once it has happened, you can do the heating it with the wet towel and everything. That's going to be temporary, and you can try to do the water and alcohol solution, and otherwise that's you kind of it.
Everything you're doing is temporary. When you're wearing it, it's going to come back. That's people don't understand that. It looks good when they're done. When I'm finished with the pair of shoes, it looks real nice. Customer wears it a couple of times, those creases are going to come back. Especially, you know, you get busy during the day, or when you come home, you take your shoes off. You don't want to sit there and put them in shoe trees. You forget about them. I mean, not everybody has the time. Maybe you do. You like the boots, you know. That's something he's into. You know, most people come in and they kind of forget about putting them in shoe trees. You know, so yeah, it's good to bring them back without the creases. That makes it look real nice. But don't forget, don't worry about it. It's going to come back. Just enjoy the shoes or shoe boots, wear them, and enjoy them. That's it, you know?
Yeah, and any solutions are going to be temporary.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
just use your shoe trees and be nice to your shoes.
they're boots and shoes. You got to wear them. You got to enjoy them. You can't just let them sit on the shelf and look pretty like that. No, don't do that. Enjoy them. Wear them.
Cool.
All
All right. Well, thanks. Oh, by the way, Steve's channel is in the description below. Bedo's Leatherworks. Check it out. He's a brilliant cobbler. It's fantastic to watch. And thanks, man. See you
Thank
next
very
time.
much.
All right. Thanks.
Take care.